believes there's a greater you on the inside of you means being above normal, understanding your worth, and being confident in knowing who you are. But the first person who has to realize that there's a greater you on the inside of you is you. In life, we all go through stages of the good, the bad, and the ugly, which leads us to our purpose and promise. UTCM is a platform where you get to share your story and your truth of unmasking moments that allows you to embrace all stages in your life. UTCM looks forward to many people being able to unmask, uncover, and unveil themselves on the podcast. Thank you for watching and joining us.
Ooh, we here, y'all.
We are here. We are here.
Oh, I'm here.
You, me, and the Holy Spirit. We are here.
Holy Spirit, activate.
Activate.
You know what? If the Lord didn't teach me patience right now,
girl,
I was in training. Okay, I'm like, whoo. So
my goodness,
we here, y'all.
We're here. Thank you for your patience.
Yes, thank you for your patience, everybody. We was having some technical difficulties. My sis was trying. I'm getting another laptop. I'm like, you know what? Let's just use the phone. We don't like using the phone. Listen. So, Jesus is definitely in the room. Okay.
Okay.
Oh, because we about to dive on in. We about to just dive on in. You know, listen. You can't stop no show.
He can't. If it's meant to be, it's going to be. And I'm like, God, what's going on here? I'm like, oh, something that's not supposed to be said. Okay. Well, it's supposed to be said, but right. Want it said. Let's go.
That's what he thought. That's what he thought was going to happen. But no, it's not. So we here. Thank you, everybody. Welcome again to another episode of Unmasking the Cover Me, season 4, episode 17. Oh my God, I can't believe it. Yes, it is. This is 4 years. Oh my goodness. Wow. I'm getting ready to close out 4 years.
That's beautiful. That is beautiful. Look at that. Just a journey. Yeah.
Girl, so amazing. Yeah. So amazing. So I just thank you. So first of all, sis, I want to thank you so much for your willingness to come on and continuing to even up to now, right? Like continuing to push, right? No matter what. I always say, unmasking is not easy. By far, right? Especially, when you do it in private, it's hard, but it's even harder when you do it in public. Right?
Yeah.
So I just thank you for your willingness to not give up.
Absolutely.
Right. That just really that shows, with me reading your questionnaire about that tender heart, right? And that perseverance and that, I'm gonna keep going no matter what. Attitude. So I love you so much. I thank you for your willingness again, for just coming on and just being with me, right?
Yes, this is a beautiful thing. I'm really excited. Yeah.
Thank you so much. Hey, everybody. I just thank y'all so much. I thank all y'all for your love, for your support on this journey with me. Some of you have been watching me from the beginning until now. And I'm just thankful and I am so grateful. I don't even think that there's enough words to really express how my heart feels. But I hope you guys can feel my love. So I thank all my people that's on YouTube supporting me. Yeah, okay, you know what I'm saying? Y'all like, comment, and subscribe. Okay.
Period.
So we got started late, so we apologize. But let's just stay on task, right? So, sis, right? I always, I like to start off with a guest. I haven't had a guest in a while, and I was like, oh my goodness, child, I forgot to send her the link on how to get on and all that stuff. Lord, I've been doing episodes by myself, so I completely forgot my whole process when I had a guest, right? But I want you, right? Because it may be somebody on that may not know nothing about Linda. Shoot, I may not know a lot of stuff about Linda, right? We masking, right? So I want you to brag about yourself a little bit. Tell the people about who Linda is.
Oh, this is something I have been working on. Talk about unmasking, which is, pretty much like giving yourself accolade and giving yourself, you picking your own flowers and smelling them. So I start out as a woman who has whew, persevered through a lot, pushed through a lot, a mom of four, a wife, a sister, a friend, a cousin, a auntie, if you ain't seen mine on TikTok, and my auntie era.
It was hilarious. I loved it. Loved it.
Who's really pushed through a lot of, in hindsight, recognizing that I pushed through a lot of chains, spiritual bondedness, bondage, that I didn't realize that I was born into. So a person that perseveres, a person who is very, very inviting, very kind. Uh, I'm a person who likes to see the best in a situation, in a person. Um, and I am that upstander. I am, that person that stands up for the underdog. I'm that person that will go to battle, spiritually, mentally, and physically for the underdog. Um, that's who I would brag about. That's one thing that I'm really proud about. It's so funny how the Holy Spirit will repurpose things, and the song that he's been playing in my subconscious, I've been waking up to, and I've been like just seeing like, why is this song? I haven't played this song, I haven't heard it on the radio, but it's did you realize that you were a champion in their eyes? So I'm like, I am.
You
I'm a
are.
champion.
I love that. You know what? You did pretty darn good to me. I'm sitting here like, oh, Naisha, you could learn. Yeah. So if y'all don't know, she didn't mention, but she's definitely a teacher, right?
Yes.
And her questionnaire, when I was reading her questionnaire, it was some things that I had to read 4 and 5 times. I'm like, now come on, Linda, why you use that word? That's a teacher word. All her punctuations was on point, commas was right, and all that. I'm like, this is straight up teacher right here, right? So she is a teacher too, right? But I want to, because as I was reading your questionnaire, right, and I've been trying to do this lately when I do have a guest on, right? There's like I think of a quote, or I look up a quote that kind of speaks to right who you are. And when you really talked a lot about, and we're going to dive in, we're going to unpack, right, because you said a lot too, because I want to go back to something that you mentioned, like describing who you are. Right. There's a word that you spoke of, and I want to go back to that, but I want to kind of read this quote because I don't want to forget it. But it reads, "Don't mistake her gentle spirit or tender heart. She is full of fire. She can be dainty and still have claws. She can be sweet and still make flames. That's her magic."
I like that.
I was like, if that don't
Yeah.
I
love that. Text that to me. That's going up somewhere.
Yes, I got you. I mean, it's just, I felt like it's because you're just so sweet and you're so tender and you're so loving, but you definitely can see when you be in kind of like that zone, like mess with me if you want.
Very few have seen that side.
Mess with me if you want. BK all day.
Let's not do it that. It's like, but the few that saw it don't want to see it again.
And the Lord still loves us.
He still loves us.
Okay.
He gave me that fire for a reason.
He still loves that flame, that fire, and all that good stuff. You wouldn't be you without it, right? And I think that was the point, right? You are unique in your own way, even though you still can have that tender side to you. You still, you still have evolved to know, like, listen, I'm not no pushover, right? And I'm going to fight for who I love. First and foremost, I'm going to fight for me, and then anybody else that I love and that's connected to me.
And that's a nuance, the fighting for yourself. That can be, a nuance for people. It's a nuance for me. Like, you think that you're fighting for yourself until you realize, like, dude, like, your hair ain't even done. It's like, do your nails. Like, are you really fighting for you? Did you sleep well? Did you eat well? Are you taking care of this vessel? So that part, for a lot of people, for most, can be like an eye opener that you really are not fighting for yourself. And that's a good checkpoint to sometimes be like, yeah, it's so easy to be like, don't mess with this and don't mess with that and don't mess with who. But it's like, are you doing the same for yourself? So that's like, for me, unmasked, like I had to make sure I was fighting for me.
Right, for real. So I want you to go back to something that you mentioned, right, when I asked you to describe yourself, right, in 3
You're gonna
words.
have to remind me.
I got you. Trust me, I got you.
All right.
You mentioned, but you also just said it too when you were just, describing when you were speaking to who you are. You said that you're inviting. Kind of like
Yes.
speak to what that means. Like, what does that mean for you? How are you How are you an inviting person?
Oftentimes, and now it's a paradigm, because in order to be inviting, you have to give the invitation. It's not always, people coming to you. So often, for one, just of course, coming from through my experience in life, I have been on so many sides of the leaf where I felt, ostracized, where I felt marginalized, where I felt othered, where I felt like no one was looking at me. I felt invisible. And all things for a reason. God has opened my eyes to people that feel like that, or could seem like kind of invisible. Um, so inviting in a sense where I am very insightful. I am very, I like to see things from all sides. I'm very fair in a sense. So it's, I sense that I get that people are very comfortable speaking with me. And God has gifted me with some forgetfulness. So some things they tell me, and I honestly do forget. So I'm a vault in that way. So that's the one thing that they pick up. They don't realize that they're picking up in the spirit, that I am that kind of a safe space. But I really believe that I, provide the temperature and the attitude and the approach, that I am a safe space, because I believe God has just gifted me with that mantle to be a safe space, to be inviting, to feel like if there is anyone that I could talk to, or I could be vulnerable with, or I could share something, that would probably, other people probably would judge. I feel like if I am in their circle and in their purview and in their environment, that I am, usually is my experience, the person that people share with.
And do you feel like you've always been that way?
Yeah.
Mm.
I find myself in circles, often being the bridge between groups of people. And my experiences has always been like the mean person and like the really popular cool people. And it's like I'm always the person who's like, well, guys, on both sides, they're not that bad. you know. Taking it back to like high school and middle school when I was, living in Florida. It was like the blacks and the whites, and it's like, guys, we're kind of like all the same. you know Definitely like taking a stance on things and not being like, just the get by person, but it's still like checking people on what's not really true, on certain prejudices, on certain preconceived notions. It's like, no, that's not true. No, that it, knocking stuff that, oh, they like this, they act like that. It's like, no, that's actually not true. That's actually not the case. And just allowing people to see things from all sides,
Yeah. Yeah. And I think I can definitely relate to that. And I am a big person on, it's not what you say, it's how you say it. And I didn't even realize, right, like growing up and, even now to today, like just being mindful of, how I speak to people. I'm always conscious of, well, how would I want to be treated? Right. Like I wouldn't, now I can't say that I haven't judged before, right? But I can say now, like, especially on this unmasking journey, I feel like my lens has changed a little bit, right? Because being on the other side, right, and going through what you go through, you don't want people to judge you. I didn't want people to judge me, right? Yep. So now, and whatever it was, right, it doesn't matter, right? I'm not the judge, right? And I think I had to grow into that and learn it, because I would judge some people and I wouldn't judge certain people, right? Like, no, you're not supposed to judge anybody. You don't get to do that, right? And just being able to create a safe space, right, for people
And I would push back a little bit on that, because I do believe as a believer that we have the right to judge certain things.
That's true.
Right. So it's like, and I'll even preference it if I'm telling someone, I'll be like, no, I'm going to judge you on this, because
That's good.
by my standards, by our standards, or, even if they're not a Christian, by moral standard,
Yeah.
certain things just don't fly. So that definitely, in the sense where I'm not going to convict you for whatever wrong you're doing. I'm
Right.
just going to help you to wipe the mud out your eyes and see it a little clearer. Like, okay, this is probably why people said this. This
Right.
is probably why people feel this. I get where you coming from and your experience and your lens, but it could have been perceived a different way. So
Definitely. I think that's for me, that's more so of being honest with
right.
someone, right? You know what I'm saying? Not necessarily not being judgmental, but being truthful and honest with them, right? Because sometimes people can't handle the truth. But at the end of the day, when you are creating a safe space for somebody, right, and they feel safe with you, and like you said, with us being ambassadors of God, right? That's what he desires. He desires that from us first and foremost, is our honesty.
Yeah.
Right. So when we are helping people, guiding people, and leading people, right? He wants us to be honest with them too.
Yeah.
Well, right. So honesty is crucial and a key component to, I think, just of being in life. I don't know whether you believe in God, whether you don't, whether you're of the Christian faith or another faith, right? Your honesty is what's needed, right? That's what helps you get through. Because you got to be honest with yourself.
Ooh. Oh God, that's the ugly part. When you're honest with yourself, you be in the mirror, like, how when dogs do something wrong, you be like,
First of all, I want y'all to know too, right? So Linda, she described herself as comical. So I feel like we're actually like sitting in the back of the sanctuary at a church, because this is how our conversations usually go. This is how conversations usually go. I'm gonna have to correct you on that, right? And then I'm like, well, here is my right. I feel like literally, right? But and then she'll switch it and make it real comical. She busts out in a joke. I'm like, girl, I can't. I love her so. I just love being able to have dialogue with you and just connect, right? Because it's never like a disagreement. It's just like conversation, and it's so therapeutic. I feel like so much healing, right? Because again, it goes back to that honesty, right? And also to some level of maturity.
Yeah.
Well, because sometimes, when you are at a certain place in your life, there comes a time where there's a maturity level that
you gonna grow. Which way we going here?
And you don't need people that say yes to you all the time either.
Whew, gosh, because you would be down the wrong street. My sister, oh my gosh, she gives people the wrong directions all the time, and that's my equivalent to a yes man. Because as a New Yorker, people could tell when you're a New Yorker, you walking down, your face ain't, you're not happy. And they always ask her for directions, and she's like, I'm a New Yorker, but I have a horrible sense of direction, and I don't want to seem like I don't know what I'm talking about. So I just tell them, yeah. So every time I think of a yes man, I'd be like, Cabrina, because the wrong directions. You have nothing but yes men and nobody to, pump the brakes on you. You will end down the wrong street on the wrong train somewhere far Rockaway, and you trying to get to Manhattan.
Knowing you're not supposed to be that way at all.
Exactly. So yeah, yes man is just horrible. It's like poison. It feels good going down, but it's like alcohol, honey. But on the other end, it hurts.
For real.
It hurts.
For real.
It's like you need people like that. You need these conversations. You need authentic people around you, because it's all a part of your journey. It's all a part of your life. It's all a part of the fabric that God is knitting together. It's each person that you interact with, that you have genuine connection with, is a part of your recipe. They have something that needs to be in your recipe to make you better. Like and vice versa, iron sharpening iron. So you have to value it, you have to cherish it, and when you get a little ouch, you better just rub it and take that lesson. So yeah, I definitely I definitely appreciate our dialogue, our exchange, and our sisterhood.
Yes, for real. For real. So first of all, right? You and these analogies, my God, I said, Linda, so it was a question. Her response on the questionnaire, I read it 3 times and I still didn't understand it. I said, you know what? I'm gonna wait because she's gonna have to unpack this for me. Okay.
Wait, you gotta remind me what I said.
Yes, because you're gonna have to unpack this for me, sis. For real.
Okay.
So it's going to, this unforgiveness, right? The unforgiveness question. So I'm just going to read what you actually wrote, and then I need you to unpack that for me, right? So you wrote, the question is, just to give y'all premise of what the question is, right? What is your definition of forgiveness, right? So this is what Linda wrote. She wrote, unforgiveness feels like a rock in a soft place. My goal is to keep my heart tender so that I can feel. The scariest thing for me is to be numb. It feels like salt that has lost its flavor.
Gosh. Ooh, the kids must have been sleeping. I was really focused.
Linda, I read it 3 times and I said, I'm gonna need her to unpack that for me because I'm just trying. I'm like, what?
It had to be maybe about 15 years ago where I was just, in just spending time with God. I wasn't praying. I wasn't singing. I wasn't doing that. I wasn't reading. I was just laying there and just spending time. I was like, I'm just going to lay here. I remember the day distinctly. I was like, I'm just going to lay here with God. I'm just going to be here with him. And you just get certain like vision, like not visions, but like images, or just like he'll show me things just in like, I'm a theater person. I'm a creative. So he just shows me things, and like, it was kind of like he showed me the globe, and he showed me, because I was, kind of, remember before that I was kind of pondering, just like how, why is there so much evil in the world? Why is so much bad things happen? Why is there so much this? Why is there so much that? And, I kind of left that and just was like spending time with him and laying there. He was just showed me like the world. And there was just like this cool, like light blue mist circling the world, circling the globe. And like he showed me like wisping through the mountains and wisping down the valleys and like in the hood and in the suburbs. Like it just was like showing me everywhere, every the image that I had in my mind. And he was like, that's all the goodness. And I was like, and I instantly understood, like, oh, if you are omnipresent and you're everywhere, then that means and you're good. So that means there has to be more good in the world than there is bad. And then it made sense, because it's like wherever sin is, he's there ever present. So it's like, okay. And then he showed me later, like some years later, I don't know if you ever saw the movie Soul, but there's just like this image, and it's just like a spirit thing, and he showed me like him as like the big spirit, and I was like this little, like his little baby spirit, and he just kept like cleaning me and like wiping me and like coddling me and like carrying me everywhere I wanted to go. And it was just like, oh my gosh, this place is so tender and so sweet. It's so full of love. It's so full of kindness. I want to maintain that. I want to keep that softness. I want to keep that childlike look on things. I want to keep that tenderness. I want my heart to be that tender. Like if that's how you see me and that's how you are caring for me every breath that I take, because you are, like, he even showed me like he was the breath that I was breathing, this cool wispy thing that was like flowing everywhere and was more prevalent than anything. um and I just came, was like, oh, that's just that's you want me, if my heart is tender, then it's good ground, and you can affect change. I could chase 10,000 with a tender heart, you know. And to think of unforgiveness for me is just hardness. Like you just have to, I think of a fist like holding on so hard that it's just it's beating against that tenderness. Like, remember, 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 because you have to remember, remember, remember that you're angry. Remember that what they did, and you have to remember every detail. And it's like it it starts to warp because it's scientifically proven that every memory that you have is a memory of the memory. So
Mm.
it's never really actually what happened. So it just begins to warp into this
Mm.
hard thing that wants to invade that private, secret, little tender space that God is just always providing for me to abide in.
Mm.
So that's what I meant when I said it just feels like a rock in a hard place and I just want it out. And it doesn't mean that I'm going to like forget, you don't forget bad things that happen to you. You don't forget um offenses. You don't forget breaches in trust. You don't forget those things. Like, you're human, you're going to remember them. You probably still will feel the pain, but
Yeah.
that doesn't mean you have to hold that rock there.
Yeah.
It's like, okay, you feel that pain, but God is still there wiping you clean every moment. It's like every moment can be made new. Yes, you can cry. Yes, it's because that emotion is attached to something deeper. That emotion is attached to a root. If you're still sad about it, okay, forgiveness and discussion about it is different. Whatever it is, it's like, I forgave you, understanding you had a set of experiences that led you to believe that you could offend me in that way, or that led you to feel like it was okay, or that led you to feel like you wanted to hurt me. So understanding the humanity of people allows you to get to forgiveness a little bit easier, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
Just understanding that everyone has, not saying they're right, not saying they're justified in the wrongdoing, whatever, but their experience, their lens has led them to whatever moment of offense that they felt that they could cross whatever boundary, whatever line, you know, to hurt someone, to offend someone. And understanding, being able, and it's a journey to get to this point,
Yeah.
to be able to um separate yourself from your humanity and just sit in a spiritual and see it in a different way. It's like, okay, you did blank. That was horrible. That was evil. That was wrong. That was heinous, you know? But I'm not going to let your inflictions, I'm not going to let your baggage, I'm not going to let your rotting mess sit in my soft place and then invade me and have me with a warped reality, because again, it's never really what happened. It's always some warped thing, so it's like removing removing the inability to process and heal.
Mm.
It's like, because it's like, once you have that rock there, it's like, what if you're it's like rocks in a bag, it's like, and then eventually those rocks become smooth and they just become who you are and they just roll with it, but they don't belong. They're not that soft, tender place that God wants to keep you in. So it's that hindrance of growing.
Yeah.
You have some people that are still at the age, that they got offended. Some people are walking around 15. Some people are walking around, they're in their 70s and they're still 30. Some people even dress in the same way. It will physically manifest that you have not fully forgiven. Be hurt, yes. Discuss it, yes. Because that pain, and this is the look in the mirror and the dog walk away like, oh God. That pain that you feel from whatever happened still has a root in you,
Yeah.
you know so it's like, what's that root that has you, that that makes you to that makes you revisit the point of offense so often or so intensely,
Mm.
you know so that's kind of what I meant
You
when
said a lot. I'm like, dang, I can't remember all my questions I want to ask
Oh
her.
gosh, I'm sorry.
No, no, no. It was so good. It was so good because, right, you know, everything was good of what you were saying, right? So, I mean, the one thing that really comes to my mind is, right, what are some of the steps, right? Because like you said, it is a journey. I feel like I'm still learning how to do that, right?
Right.
Because there may be a moment where I could be speaking to someone or I could have a disagreement, you know, let's say with my husband, right? And I can go back to the age of 10.
Instantly. Yep.
Right. And I am completely offended. And I don't feel like 41-year-old Naisha.
Nope. Yep.
Right. And I am offended. Right.
Right.
But I'm learning to even now, like, okay, Naisha, what is it that you need in this moment? Why did that really just offend you that much right now? Right. Like, so I guess I want to ask you, like, what are the steps that you actually take? Right. Because I'm quite sure there's still times where you know what I'm saying, you have to forgive someone or someone may have said something that kind of rubbed you the wrong way.
Yeah.
Right. But
Yeah.
being reminded, right, because I mean, I feel like that's going to always happen. It's just a matter of how you deal with it, right?
Precisely.
The more you know,
I
it.
feel like oh sorry.
No, 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 no. You're good. You're good. Go ahead.
I feel like the first step honestly is spending time with God. You have to, as cliche, as corny, as simple as it sounds, it is literally like, oof, it's tectonic plates moving. It is earth turning. It is so dope. It is so dope because he's going to tell you how. He's going to tell you what you need. He's going to show you yourself. Right now, Chase just he completely damaged his iMac. Oh gosh, I mean his laptop. So upset. And we were riding past, iFix or something like that. Ava was like, "Yeah, just take Chase's laptop." I was like, "No, Ava, you gotta take Mac to Mac. You gotta take Mac to Mac,
Right.
Apple to Apple." You know. So it's like, and even with me being in therapy, my therapist ain't got nothing on my time with God. My therapist has nothing on, you still need therapy, but my therapist has nothing on my time with God because he's just going to he can literally just rip the veil away. And sometimes that's hard for people because if you don't, it's sometimes you got to practice it, to be able to quiet your mind and really just sit there with him and allow him to show you and you be sometimes leaving that time with God like the dog. Oh wow, it's me, but he'll show you, and in those moments and in those times, even if you just have quiet moments where you ask yourself, how do you feel loved? How do you feel loved? And in just getting in touch with yourself will allow you to write down certain things, however you do it, journal it, to understand how you work. There is no formula like do this, girl, then do that, and then do that, and throw 3 eggs over your own shoulder, and it's going to be good. You're going to be able to forgive. And it's like you have to learn you in order to forgive. Mine is words of affirmation. And I had to ask myself, like, why is, you go through like, why are my words of affirmation? Because when I was being raised by my grandmother, but she was my grandfather's girlfriend who took me in when my mother, couldn't, and she was, ill, sick on drugs. And she took us in. She raised me from 5 to 15. And she, every other word, I was a B. I was a B. Oh yeah. And she was country. She was born in the 30s from Memphis. She had a tumultuous upbringing. She was, I think, like the second oldest of 12 kids. She was raped. She was misused. So, she instilled a lot of things, but the word she would spit out of her mouth was crazy. you
Yeah.
know? So then I was like, oh, that's why words of affirmation are so important to me, and they really resonate with me, and they really open my eyes and, motivate me to, get myself together and get all my faculties, in line and grow and change, just simply, oh, you're doing a good job. It just, you are this, you're great, because I was bathed in the opposite,
Yeah.
So it was like I was able to identify, like, okay, now I need to love myself like that. Once I could love myself like that, I'm filling up a certain part of the cup that nobody else can fill. Now I'm able to see, because I feel loved from myself, I can now receive love from other people. I can now see the humanity in someone else. And once you're able to see the humanity in someone else, you can have a better understanding of why they did something, while still feeling hurt, while still, wanting an apology, while still, while all the human things are still going on, you can still remove that rock and start to nurse that womb and, get.
Mm. Linda, so oh my goodness, I don't know. I hope you can remember this story, and I don't remember when you told it. All I remember is we were in church, and I don't know if it was just me and you, or if we were in our leadership meeting. But you had
Oh,
told the story about you being at the sink.
no, I was about Chase and my mom.
You were washing the dishes, and you had it was a moment when you was washing the dishes, and I think it was like that's when it really hit you, like, to forgive your mom,
Yeah.
right? Can
Yes.
you, so because I could never do it any justice, right? And I think that it's a very pivotal moment, and it's something really good that people need to hear, right?
Hmm.
Because somebody may be watching that needs to be able to forgive, right? And they may not forgive the same way that you forgive, but at least it will begin to have the wheels start to turn of, if she could do it, then I can do it, right? So
Yeah.
I would like, if you could share that story that you shared about you washing the dishes and having that whole moment of forgiveness with
Absolutely.
your mom.
Absolutely. Um, I was what was that? I was washing the dishes, and then I had to make a phone call to set up. I believe Chase was had to be like 1 at the time, and I had to set up his 1-year-old visit. His annual visit, and I
Chase is how old?
called.
Chase is
He's
how old?
18
He's
in
18, right? So I
college,
want y'all to know, right? This didn't just happen.
right?
Okay. This was a journey. All right. That's
A
all. Go ahead. Go
journey.
ahead, Linda. It was a journey.
So it was his 1-year-old visit. I had to set up. I called the doctor or something. I don't know why they were confused who the appointment was for. No, they wanted to know if it was for my daughter or my son. So of course, first time mom, everything is new. And I was like, oh no, this appointment is for my son. And it was like probably, one of the after, of course, after having a child, one of the grown up things you did. I'm setting appointments for my kids. I'm setting up doctor's appointments. So
That's so good.
so I was like, no, this appointment is for my son. And I like looked at him, and instantly I was like, I would do anything for him. I would move heaven and earth. I would fight a bear, flip a car. And in that moment, instantly, with juxtaposed to that was the absence of my mother.
Mm.
And it was like in my life, in certain, in certain times of my life, in certain years. And I said, she had to be so sick, on drugs, so depressed, so mentally tormented, that she would abandon her children the way she did.
Mm.
And I didn't even know, honestly, in that moment, it was a realization. It was like, I don't know, God was probably like, I got to close this real quick for her because it could go all the way. Because in the moment, I didn't realize how much I didn't forgive her. I
Mm.
didn't realize the unforgiveness I had, and it just, when I tell you, it was a moment that just came together like, okay, gotcha. I realized just how sick she was. I realized just um, how separated from herself she had
Mm.
to be able to leave her children and not care for us the way that she did. And I didn't feel angry about it. I didn't feel like I wanted to get back at her. I didn't feel like I had revenge for her. I wanted to hold that 19-year-old girl that lost her mother, because
Mm.
I was 19 when she passed. Crazy, right? When
Wow.
she passed away, I was 19. So, and felt, which I wanted in that moment, I wanted to hug that 19-year-old girl that did not know how to process mommy is not coming back,
Mm.
which led her to the deepest depression she ever
Mm.
had been, which led her to crack cocaine, you know? And it felt like it wasn't an outer body experience, but it felt like I said, I was able to split my humanity. Like the little girl, like, I wanted you to be there and support all my wishes and dreams. I wanted allowance. I wanted that Barbie car. I wanted the clocks. I wanted some the clogs. Remember the clogs came out? I wanted
Yes,
a
the
pair of
clock.
clogs. I wanted some used shorts. I wanted a new bike. You weren't there. You weren't there. You weren't there. When I was 13, when I got my period, that literally was silenced.
Wow.
Like that humanity was like, but look at what she did. Like she, of course, had a redemption story. I'll get to that. But it was a separation of the humanity and look at this human. Look at the experience she had. Look at the lens that she had. She was coddled. My grandmother spoiled her, to her, detriment at some points, because when my grandmother passed, she didn't have certain life skills because she was just spoiled, and she didn't persevere through that depression. She didn't persevere through that loss. And I was able to see that human side of her. Instead of this mommy figure, an icon, she
Mm.
became a human. She became like me, and that Christ became like us.
Yeah.
I want to be like Christ, you know. He became like us. She became like me, like that 19-year-old girl that, was a size 0, could barely fit clothes after my mom passed. But it's like, she didn't have it she didn't have what you had because of your life experience and lens. It felt like, um whew, it's hard to explain, because it felt like a catch 22. It felt like a paradigm. It felt like it was twisted, because it was like, if I had not if I had not experienced living with my grandmother, if I had not experienced that, I would not have been able to see her for her human self in the strangest way. I'm still knitting that together in the strangest way. But it's like, but if she had not got on drugs, I wouldn't have been able to understand in the first place. But I wouldn't have got from Ernestine, my grandmother, I wouldn't have got from her what I needed. Like I said, everybody is an ingredient. Everybody, puts their little flavor into the fabric of you, you
Yeah.
know? So it's certain things that I did get from my grandmother that were so powerful,
Yeah.
with all, again, being able to forgive her for her stuff and separating the humanity from, the spiritual, my humanity from the spiritual side, and able to see it separately. It's like you have to see it separately, separate from your own selfish desires,
Yeah.
your own personal gain, or just what you feel entitled to. It's like you actually weren't entitled to it. It's God's design all along.
Mm.
So in that moment, it literally just came together, like forgiveness, awareness, illumination. And it was like an epiphany moment, like, oh my goodness, I can't hold any of this against her. I
Mm.
can't hold any of it against her. I still feel the loss of not having her all those years,
Right.
but the sadness and the bitterness that could sandwich that doesn't exist.
Mm. That's good.
I hope that was clear. I know I could go far, but I
No,
hope I brought it back.
no, it was good. It was good
Okay.
because it just spoke to um your experience of really, because it's something about a mother and a daughter
Yep.
relationship, right?
Yeah.
And when that piece is missing, it can be very challenging.
Mm-hmm.
It can be very hard. It could be detrimental,
Mm-hmm.
right? But it just speaks to how, when you can take a moment, and it doesn't matter, how old you are you too young to know about it, or you're not. No, but when you are really trying to be better for you, doesn't matter what age you are.
Yeah.
It just speaks to you taking that moment and looking at the person that gave birth to you, but looking at them as a human being.
Yeah, man. That part is powerful. It is so powerful for change. And it's like if you would erase their name off of the top of the paper and write their life story and read it as just a subject, someone that this is their life, would you still would how much compassion would you have? How much more compassion would you have for this person on paper reading their story?
Wow. Wow.
Yeah.
And I guess, is that when you had that moment, right? Because you also, in the questionnaire, right, I talked about, what did the uncovering process look like for you, right? And you really kind of just spoke to, like, really wanting to know your family history. Like,
Mm-hmm.
did that moment start that? Like, now, okay, I didn't did, a hard part, and I'm still working at it, right?
Mm-hmm.
But at least now I'm in this space, right? I need to kind of I need to know more, right?
Right.
Is that when that journey kind of started?
Definitely, definitely, because then I started. Well, I knew that I'm named after my grandmother. Her name is Evelyn. I'm Linda Evelyn, and my mother was named after her grandmother Alberta, so she's Brenda Alberta, and I kept it going because it's Ava Brenda.
Okay.
Um, so it's I kept it going. She better keep it going.
Right.
Um,
Ava.
right. So I really was like, well, what was, my grandmother really like? What
Mm,
messages did she try to convey? My mother talked about my grandmother all the time, and of course, as she passed, I only had my older sister and Sadia, my other older sister Shanta, to kind of like give their accounts of what she was like and things that she would say. And my aunt, and she would talk about, I only have one aunt. She would talk about my grandmother, and I kind of got an understanding of who she was. And then I just wanted to go further back, like what was my great grandmother like? What was Alberta like?
mm.
And just learning about Alberta, how, she died like in her late 30s, or no, honest, it was her late 20s,
Oh, wow.
like super young. My grandmother was raised by um her aunt, one of her aunts, her great aunt, my grandmother's aunt. Um and her two brothers, my uncles, they were raised by other people. They
Mm,
lived their life the way they lived it. Of course, substances were involved. And then, coming, that was my grandmother's experience. I'm like, hold up, that's uncanny to our experience.
right.
Just like times three, because my mother had 10 kids.
Wow.
Yeah, right. So it was like, oh my goodness, my mother was raised, by my grandmother. But she didn't know her father because he was abusive. We just recently found that side of the family last year, or maybe like 2 years ago, like a year and a half ago. We just found my mother's father's side of the family. How deep I was digging. It was like,
Wow.
who are these people? Because it's like, yeah, you are your own self. Yeah, you are who you are, but you are in a culmination of these bloodlines. You are, things do, pass down, mantles and antles, if you want to go there. That ain't
Mhm.
the stuff you don't want,
Right.
you
Right.
know. So it's like, okay, so recognizing that I didn't want certain patterns to repeat. I didn't want certain things. So it was like to the point where I didn't even taste alcohol till I was probably like 22, 23. Where some people like sneak, it was like, I don't even want to taste it. A
Right.
drug, you could put that on the top of Mount Everest. Like, I wanted to separate myself so far from those things as
Yeah.
to break those generational curses, break those chains. And one thing I recognize about my grandmother, through hearing the stories, she wanted to do the same things.
Mm.
So it's like, okay, in my game plan and my plan, the things that God laughs at, my plan, I was like, okay,
Right, right,
how can
right.
I how can I not make how can I make sure these things not happen, which, so to some point it's healthy. You know, you want to be aware of things that happen in your bloodline. You want to be aware of certain things. God always has his way of, doing what he wants to do, and you can't be too adhered to you can't be married to all of those plans. But I
Right.
think that it was very healthy for me, um to understand just behavioral patterns, mindsets, lifestyles. Child, I went all the way back to like 1880 and found out like my great 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 grandfather was a cab driver in Bed-Stuy. And I was like, hold up, we didn't leave Brooklyn for like 100 years. It's time to go.
Wow.
uh, so that just kind of like unmasked, honestly, not even like trying to take away everything that my family was and could have been. It was also honoring. It was also like, oh, this is who I am. This is more of what I should be aspiring to be. My people came, they was well-to-do people. It's just, it was really comforting.
Yeah.
It was comforting to unmask in that way, like, okay, I have more of a I'm more in touch with my earthly identity than I was, because everything was so scattered, with my great grandmother dying at 28 and then my grandmother passing away at like 48. So I'm like, hold up, I have to live until like 98. Like I'm you know
Right. Right.
so it's just small little things like that where not everybody has that. Some people go with their lives not knowing anything about 3-4 generations ago. But to me it was very important because I understood how you're knitted together, and it's like God don't do nothing for no reason. So you was born into this family for a reason, so let's find out why.
Yeah. Good. That's good, because we'll always say, well, I don't say we, right? I'm speak for myself. I know I always say, God, especially it used to, not as much now, not really now at all. But I used to always say, like, why couldn't I be born into like another family? Or like if I see somebody, I'd be like, God, like, why couldn't I be in that family? Not understanding that family got some stuff too as well. And I'm so happy that you say that, right? Because I remember sending my aunt, big shout out to my aunt Kia. I don't think she's on tonight, but I love her so much, my father's sister. I reached out to her, I think it was a few months back, and I said, I really want to sit down with you and kind of just get an understanding of like what our family is about. Right. On my father's side. And then I want to do it on my mom's side too, as well. And I think that's just a part of, I think, my maturity in my healing journey. And I think it's important for me to know, because I've heard some, like my family, especially on my dad's side, it's a lot of, mental health and mental illness, right? That was swept under the rug. Because they didn't know, not because they didn't want to deal with it, but there wasn't a lot of resources. And, if you had to go see a psychiatrist back in the day, you were already classified as certified crazy.
Exactly.
You in an institution, they're isolating you from all the family. Like, you know what I'm saying? You're a monster. Right?
Like the cooties.
Right. Right. Like it's nothing like today. Like, you know what I'm saying? You say you got a mental illness and you got horns blowing and
you acknowledge it.
It's a celebration, balloons.
Join the club.
Like, come, you do. Right. So you gotta laughter is really good for the soul, y'all, for real. You go through your emotions with with being emotional, right? Like I still get my emotional days even now, right? But I feel like it's super important. I just want to thank you for reminding me, right, that that's something that I need to do. I need to take the time to do that, on my healing journey. It's just another part of, beyond the surface. Right? Like, because a lot of the healing that I have done has been, on the surface, right? Because that's just where I was in that season. But now in this next season, it's like, okay, now we need to dig a little bit deeper, right? Like, why do you respond? Why do you still respond the way that you respond, right? Like, there could be something, right? And you're not even, but you need to be able to deal with it. Right. And you can speak to it. So I do want to thank you. When I read that, I'm like, oh, thank you so much. Like, Holy Spirit, God will always send those little snippets of reminders, right? And when I read that, I'm like, yeah, I need to make sure I reach out to my aunt, so I can definitely begin to, go down that journey, for next year, for real.
And one thing I noticed when I started, it was just, strange to hear how, oh, this person used to see this kind of stuff and this person used to be into this. And I was like, do I come from a line of prophets? You hear, oh yeah, she used to see stuff all the time. Oh, she used to have dreams all the time. My mother used to call stuff out all the time. But it's just like, as a kid, it's just like going on there, like, how you know? She used to be sitting there, yeah, we about to go to war. And what war happened? We went to Iraq. I mean, and it was just like she was not some political person. She used to just be sitting there like, yeah, I can prepare now. We about to go to war. Like, all right, put on your song. Like, we just not paying no attention to it. She used to say, oh yeah, just I can't call everything, of course. But she used to just call stuff. And I used to be like this. And then I, hearing stories about my grandmother. How she just always knew stuff, how she would always dream stuff, how she would always, everybody flocked to her. She was the of course the matriarch, but not she wasn't even the matriarch. She was just the center of the family. It's just like, and then hearing about my great grandmother, how she would call stuff and how this lady put voodoo on her and stuff. It's just like, nah, this ain't, people just saying, oh, they was talking all the time and they was preaching here, talking here and there. No, this is a line of prophets. So it was like, okay. And like Apostle said, unused oil will be passed down to the next generation. So I'm like, oh, okay. So I'm gonna make sure I burn some of this oil so it's not too heavy for my kids.
Right.
So it's all of that. It's like all encompassing. It's like, oh my goodness, you think you just, insightful. I'm just a people reader. No, God got you supposed to be giving messages to these people that you're reading. It's not just, oh, you read people well. You come from a line of prophets, and what you say sometimes is exactly what needs to be said in a moment.
Yeah, that goes back to what I said about her earlier, right? She can be dainty and still have claws.
Who child?
I received one of those. I received one of those prophecies. I was sitting in minding my business on Sunday. She came off that pulpit singing and turned to me and looked, and you could tell it was serious, right? I mean, eye to eye. Like it wasn't no hesitation. Like there was a boldness that was like no other. I'm talking about eye to eye. She looked at me dead in my eye, and I was like, I ain't been talking to her. How she knew that?
And I'm telling you right now, I totally forgot about that. I'm telling you.
And of course, I didn't, right? Because it was the word I needed.
That's how God works, because it ain't my business.
Exactly. And I was like, she needs to get out my business. But it wasn't my business.
It's not my business.
Girl, I'm like, if she is her little self.
Gosh. He be funny. He be funny. So yeah, it's that part unmasking is like, it's unmasking so much. It's literally unmasking the dirt. It's like pulling back a rug, and it's dirty and dingy, but it's like, oh, there's some good wooden floors down here. Buff this, and this is, yeah, we're gonna use this, so it's all of that. It's the good, the bad, the ugly, and the fun stuff.
And that's crazy. When you just said that, when you pick up the rug and you see the dirtiness, right, from the rug being there, but there's still that solid, good wood floor. It just reminds me of the song Broken People. Right?
Yeah,
and
yes.
How you can be in a world full of broken people, but you can still be used.
That's right.
You can still be used in your brokenness. You can still be used in pain. You can still be used in suffering.
That's when you use the most, and it's annoying. And you'd be like, hold up, because you said I'm not supposed to be pouring from an empty cup, God. So what's going on?
Linda, I'm not doing this with you. I'm not doing
my conversations. Like, I'm thirsty, but I still gotta.
He's so annoying. Yo, I can't with you.
Oh God, that's what you like. Because you're not pouring from your cup. Yeah, your cup is empty. But my cup, you pouring from my cup, are you a vessel or not? He just be checking me, man. I be like, oh, okay.
Right.
Okay. I'm going to just keep serving.
I'm going to keep showing up.
Just keep showing.
I'm going to do it afraid.
Okay. That part. Now that's what I'm pushing through. Ooh, that's me in the season. Doing stuff afraid. Cause yeah, it's a few things that I was supposed to be like launching and pushing through, and I got to the door, was like shaking knees. I'm turning around. Judge me, Lord. Okay. Yeah.
Judge me, Lord. See, this is the realness, right? So this is the realness of what unmasking is, right? Because it's still going to be stuff that's going to show up, right? And that you got to deal with and that you got to work through. The thing is, it goes back to being honest.
Yeah.
With yourself.
Yep.
Right? Like you gotta be honest with yourself. Like, yeah, I know I'm not walking through that door.
I'm not inspired. Me? Oh no, you gonna have to catch me on the next wave, Lord. I'm gonna take this beating.
Yeah, I'm telling you. I'm gonna share a story with you, right? So it's going real quick. So I went to this it's like it was a summit for, it's called business resource groups. Like, so it's at my job, but it's also at our other family facilities too, as well. So we're one system, one family, right? RWJ. Right. So the business resource groups is to really just like, help guide and, and kind of push people into them being their authentic selves, right? If I could explain it, right? So there's different groups or whatever at different hospitals. So they had this big, large summit. Right. So the VP of our diversity, equity, inclusion, she was like, I don't care. She's like, I gotta leave, but I don't care if you talk to one person and you tell them their teeth look nice. You need to talk to somebody. I'm like, oh, I don't want to do that. These are all, I don't know none of these people. I came with one person. I'm sitting next to my person. I'm good right here.
I'm good.
Oh, okay, but let me tell you something. The Lord was like, you good? You good? What did you? I give my yes, Lord. Yes, Lord. Right? You got to be careful what you say, right? Because I told him whatever it takes, Lord, I'm all in. Like,
I'm your vessel.
Use me.
He was like, I'm pouring. So you gonna drown or you gonna pour out?
I said, Holy Spirit, activate. Move my feet, please. So Holy Spirit moved my feet, right? So not only did I go to talk to two people, I talked to the top two people. I'm like, all right, Lord, tell me. I'm like, you know what? I just want to thank you guys for offering this safe space. I'm leaving here feeling impacted, inspired, right? I don't feel alone. I feel like I can do this, right? They're like, you know what? I'm so happy you're saying that. You're going to go to the back and you're going to say it on camera and get mic'd up. I'm like, Lord, I said, Holy Spirit, activate for me to talk to them too. Not for me now to be on camera. That's going to be shown.
Right.
Hospital wide. So I say all to say, I did it afraid.
Afraid.
No, Steve said, I told Steve, he was like, nah, you ain't do it afraid. You did it more like you did it scared as he said, Naisha, you were scared as hell. You're right, Steve. You're right. I was, but I did it. Right. So I say that to, sis, listen, do it afraid. You gotta talk yourself through it.
Yeah. I gotta go back to my drawing board, my words of affirmation, my tongue is God, just laying there. And
one thing at a time. One thing at a time. Don't try
and
to
now I gotta figure out how do I get past how does Linda get past fear? Well, not because you won't get past it.
Right.
No, you gotta scratch that because he didn't give us the spirit of fear. So I will overcome it. So it was like I have to find out how Linda overcomes fear.
Linda. Yeah, because at the end of the day, I could tell you, I could sit here until you are blue in the face. You have
Whole
no
formula
in your lungs. And I can tell you, sis, you could do this. You got it. You're more than a conqueror. God says this in you. You got it. Just put one foot in front of the other. There's a greater you on the inside of you. I could say all that.
to ad nauseum. And then
And
as
you
soon
be
as you
like,
go,
girl, I heard what she said, but Lord, I'm gonna take
all
this.
right, but really though, so it starts how you
You
gotta
got to
take
be the
half.
first person to believe it,
Mm-hmm.
right? And that just speaks to the point of we are all on this unmasking journey, right? We're all on a journey of healing, right? And trying to figure out who we are and what we need, right? But we just got to be able to sit with that and allow ourselves to go through process.
And it's so individual.
It's so individual.
Everybody's always looking for a formula with their notebook. Okay, all right, what do I do? You wait for them to tell you. I could give you a skeleton, but honey, you got to put the flesh and the meat in. That's you. It's like there is no formula. The only formula is God. The only formula is letting him literally letting him have his way. That's it. It's so individual. It's no formula. It's no 1, 2, 3 step. This is not the 12-step program. And even in the 12-step program, that's the skeleton. The people put the meat on the bones. So
She be in her teaching mode, y'all, all the time. Well, if y'all ever want to come and visit, come shameless plug, come and visit our Church of the New
that's fine.
Covenant,
Be
343
term.
Dodge Street. Church service starts at 10:45. Linda has a voice of an angel. You'll
Aw,
see her up on that
you're too kind.
pulpit singing,
You're
right?
too kind. Erica, we're back to Hey, Erica.
Right.
I like the songs this week, Erica.
Right. You better, because she going Erica. Y'all better don't play with Erica. She do not play. Erica has such an old soul. I feel like she should be the mother of the church because ooh.
Oh, child.
It feel like she don't even touch you, but it feel like she wrapped her hand around
Got you
your
like
mouth.
this, like, mm-mm.
But I
My
love her.
husband, my husband got to deal with me
I gotta
every
have her
week.
back on the podcast. She was on the podcast too. I gotta have her back on the podcast again. But our time is up.
Aw, I had
This
so
was
much
so much
fun.
fun.
It was. I had a good time.
Right? After we worked through all the technical difficulties.
Oh my goodness, the enemy was. Woo! I had my work laptop, my iMac, nothing. I was like, "You serious?"
It's all
Literally
good.
went to the settings, allowed all the stuff. It still wouldn't work. I said, "Oh, okay, you want me, but you won't win."
You won't win. Okay, we use that phone, and it was no interruptions. Okay,
Child, my phone be dry.
mine do too. So I don't even have to worry about putting my phone on airplane.
Ain't nobody calling me.
Ain't nobody calling me. Nobody. But I want to thank you so much, sis. Oh, but you know what? I can't. I always. Do you remember your hashtag? I always like everybody share their hashtag. I'm a big.
Because I had to think. It was like I tried to think of it quick. I was like, I can't think of it quick, but I remember that one because I had to think of it. Hashtag she's favorite.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
I
She's
feel like
favorite.
God just kept making a way.
I love it. I love it. Yeah. And when I saw that, I was like, yeah, that is definitely Linda, from me knowing a part of your story. And I think I learned a couple of new things tonight, especially about you diving deep into your family history and all that stuff. But yes, she's favorite goes perfect with you. But I'm still in your hashtag too, because I'm favorite too.
I love it.
Yeah. Well, that's all, folks.
That's all, folks.
We
Love
are
y'all.
out of here. Thank y'all so much. Everybody be safe, stay warm. Love y'all. And till next time, we out. Good night, everybody.